Welcome to the Elokus podcast. This is class number, this is the second class number 2 in the Maayor Zos Chukas HaTorah 5672. This is the 7th discourse in the great book B'Shah Shekdimu, and today we're lucky. Right at the end of Rosh Chodesh Sivan tonight, we are beginning chapter 26, which 26 we all know is God's name. The 26 is equivalent, the gematria, the numeric value of Hashem's primary name, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, so it's a special chapter to be learning, especially if you're learning the Elokus channel, and an Elokus, which means the divine channel. And in the divine, there's many levels, and the name, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the highest name of God. So this should be a deep connection for everybody on the highest, deepest level, and that should bring healing and light and love and purification and redemption to each and every one of us. So ready or not, here we go. Okay, so we're beginning over here. So as I mentioned over here, that we were in this chapter, we're gonna continue discovering and learning the process of the tzimtzum, of the contraction, of how the light is descending from the 10 hidden sfirot, from the 10 hidden spheres agnuzos, when they're still incorporated and absorbed in the Or Ein Sof. But yet, once there is Aliyas Haratzon, once there was in the will of God to create the worlds, which means there should be a recipient to his light, it already causes somewhat of an adjustment in the light, that in a hidden, unpronounced and unstated way, the 10 spheros already exist in a non-existent fashion, but they're there, and but they don't know each other. They don't know themselves to be who they are, because they're so lost and so dissolved in the infinite light. And then these sephirot come out and they emerge, and that's the emergence of the light of the Kav. But in order for them to emerge, they have a tzimtzum as they emerge from being in their source, and they become differentiatable powers, each one an individual sphera, an individual energy. That itself is an enormous diminishment, like we learned in the last discourse number 6. And we gave 2 examples. One was the breaking of a word, and the other one was the crumbing down of an idea. When you have a concept, an idea, and then you break it down to all of its particles. In each particle, it really is a piece of the entire idea. It contains some of the entire idea, but it's very dimmed down, at least and for sure, to the eyes of the recipient, who's only receiving it through the various different details. So then they get a watered sense of the greater idea. And even after they get all the pieces together, was the last thing we learned. It's still not as sharp as the teacher, because the students are coming from the details to the idea, and the teacher is coming from the general essence of the idea and discovering the details that are inside of it. So it's a whole different appreciation. So this is a tremendous diminishment, and that's what we were learning. Now, this particular discourse right now, number 7, he's actually going to reverse a little bit. And before he's going to continue the path way down, because we were learning, like the way we're learning this is that we're moving from higher to lower. We're moving from the Spheros Ein Kates, from the infinite Sphirot, when the Or Ein Sof is still utterly simple and pashut, and the Sphirot, and it has a capability for limitless Spheros, to a hidden bending of that light to become a potential for specific 10, but all those specifics are all incorporated in one. And then we were like continuing the journey into the differentiation, and how this tzimtzum is another level of tzimtzum, a tzimtzum b'derech miyut, a diminishment. Now we're going to reverse a little bit, and we're going to speak a little bit about the drop from the general Or Ein Sof. The Or Ein Sof was still in a state where it did not have 10 hidden spheres. Like we referred to it earlier, before there was a will, or before there was a hashara, before there was an estimation within himself on on the idea that he wants to create worlds. So before that happened, there was still an infinite potential. How does that then become a potential for 10? It's because the will. So he's going to deal more with that in this particular chapter. and how the infinite light that is pre the 10 spheres hagnuzais, how that has to be withdrawn completely. That's not just diminished, that's withdrawn completely. Now he's going to find this very idea that he just said in the metaphor that he gave earlier. That when you take a letter, he's going to show us the combination of powers that formed one idea, one concept. When all the letters were put together, each letter, of course, has its significance. And then when you put the letters together, you get a word. And the word has meaning that is not in individual letters. That we spoke already earlier. That word and that concept that's contained in the word, and especially if the word is part of a larger sentence, then you break the word up, you unscrabble the letters, or you scrabble the letters, and you scatter them, then you're left only with the particular letter. You don't have any more the collective meaning. That's what we discussed earlier, but that was more of a mashal, a metaphor for the 10 spheres hagnuzos, which we said earlier that the 10 spheres hagnuzos, Hashem has one concept in all 10 of them together. It's like when you look at a human being, we're just now doing Sphira to Omer, the counting of the Omer. You look at a human being, you don't see chesed, you don't see gevura, you see a person. That person, sometimes you realize that everybody's got a different character. Some people are nicer people. Some people are tougher people. Some people are more no-nonsense people. They're more very disciplined people. Some people are a little bit more frivolous, maybe even a little bit more fun. So this all has to do with the various different combinations of their energies, make up the chemistry of their soul. But when you're looking at them, if you're seeing attributes, you're not looking at a person. We don't notice that. You're noticing a person. And the person, all these things are kind of part of a greater human being. So when God has these 10 spheres all unified together, he has one human over here. He has one concept. He has one idea, one cosmic idea of the cosmos. And then once it starts differentiating into particularization, then you're kind of losing that. Of course, he can see in every detail, he can see it all, but it's still you're already diminishing that. So that diminishing, that what you're losing, and in the mashal, in the metaphor that he uses, is taking a word and breaking it. That would be the equivalent. Taking a word where you're taking a greater concept and you're breaking it. But now he's going to show us that this example of the word is really also when you are scrambling the letters or fragmenting the letters, separating the letters, and thereby kind of destroying the soul that was residing in these words, which was the concept, which in the sphirot would mean the Or Klali that was there, the general light that was there when all the 10 hidden spheres hagnuzais were still gnuzais, when they were still hidden together, and now you're losing that. But he's now going to reveal to us something very magnificent. That you're really also losing something much, 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 much deeper that is completely disappearing over here. And that which is, and it's utterly removed. And in a sense, there's no trace of it left at all. And it's something much higher than the concept, than the idea that was dwelling in these words. So breaking up a sentence and breaking up words is really, 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 really terrible. I don't mean, depends what was there, but what I'm saying is it's a huge demolition. You're knocking off something much on a super conscious level, on a much deeper level than you're even aware of. You're eliminating something very, very high. And let's take a look at the example of how he describes this and what it is. So he's going to derive this from a chapter in Tanya. And let me say because it helps when we know where this is going. And that which you are causing to disappear and completely disconnecting from it is going to be the metaphor for what's above the Essa spheres hagnuzos. Remember, we learned that above the 10 hidden spheres, what do you mean above? deeper than them. Before in the Or Ein Sof there is a will that his light should be received by worlds, where Hashem is not considering any worlds, he's just shining his potential. He's illuminating his light. That idea of God's infinite light just radiating without any idea of a recipient, that's called Spheres Ein Kates. That's the Or Ein Sof on the higher level. Now that too is dwelling on we would think, well, once Hashem has an idea of 10 hidden spheros Agnuzos, then kind of you stepped away already from the Spheres Ein Kates, from the infinite spheres. You're ready and you're not there anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. Kind of you narrowed it down, and now we've relocated to a complete different state. But it's not true. The infinite, the Or Ein Sof that could produce spheres Ein Kates, with spheres without an end, is hovering and couching or surrounding and hugging, so to speak, and is the real power behind the Spheres Agnuzos. The Spheres Agnuzos don't exist in a vacuum. They exist within a much higher Or, which is Spheres Ein Kates. And the Spheres Ein Kates level of the Or Ein Sof is having an enormous impact on the 10 hidden Spheres Agnuzos, which means that the 10 Spheres Agnuzos would never be able to be who they are, they would never be able to be this concept of 10 spheres over here, that is, again, as we spoke earlier, they're hardly even noticed because they're lost in the Or Ein Sof. But the concept of a combination of different forces forming together one unit, that whole thing is dependent on and driven by, so to speak, and produced by the higher element of the Or Ein Sof. It means the higher element of the Or Ein Sof, it's not just that it's present, it exists. It is leaning into, it is affecting, that's the point. It is having impact and a direct consequence on the 10 hidden spheres. But, and what is that? The combination of those 10. And we'll soon see what that, we'll understand that much better. When you take the 10 spheres agnuzos and you differentiate them, you separate them, each sphere to its own, two things are going to happen. The idea of the 10 spheres agnuzos as forming one Adam, one person, one unit, is going to go out the window. Now you're going to see just individual spheres. You're not going to see the general klal, the general idea of the 10 spheres. In other words, the Or Klali, the general light of the Eser spheres agnuzos, their general idea is not here anymore. But in addition to that, the backdrop, the background light that was always there and that was impacting in the 10 spheres agnuzos to keep them all together, but now once you're separating them, so you lose that as well. And that really means you're completely disconnecting, so to speak, from the Or Ein Sof. Say disconnecting, meaning in a visible manner, not in essence. God is never disconnecting from anything, but from our perspective, from the vision of those that are, from the vision of the light of the other side. So over here we're losing contact completely with the Or Ein Sof of spheres Ein Kates. We're now just completely disconnected from pure infinity. And that is a loss, and that's where we understand how it's an incredible tzimtzum. That's the idea of tzimtzum b'derech siluk, a complete removal of that higher Or Ein Sof. So let's understand this idea as he's going to explain it now. But he's going to derive it all. He's first going to show it to us in the metaphor, meaning in the example that he uses for a word. And then he's going to show it to us he's going to extrapolate it regarding the divine meaning of it. So in Sifra Shal Beinim Chelik Beis, Perek Yud Beis, in the second part of Tanya, called Shar Yichud V'Amunah, the portal of unity and faith, in chapter 12, it's the last chapter over there. And he says like this: There he's talking about the letters that God uses, and that the letters, God's words, that he creates heaven and earth. So there he says like this, Kikol ois, umshachas chayos. Oh, you know what? It's going to make it easier if I first give the idea, and then we're going to learn it inside, so it's going to flow better, I think. And here we go. What the Rebbe is going to prove to us over here is that in addition to words facilitating ideas, and an idea, which means a inyan sichli, an intellectual concept, which is a force. It's a force. That intellectual concept, that seichel, that dwells when you have letters together. And those, and again, like the word baruch, which means blessing. Blessing has a content. If someone says, give me a blessing, that means something. So actually, I was teaching high school girls, and they asked me such a good question last week. I was talking about how in the days of Mashiach, like everything is going to be in its state of perfection. So the girls were asked. So one girl asked, she says, "So how? What are we going to ask for someone for a blessing? We're going to ask someone, give me a blessing for what? Everything is going to be perfect. Everything we're going to have." I thought it was an interesting question. And it's interesting that where she was coming from. So if we have everything, we don't need blessings. But no, it was very, very important in her mind that blessings will always be necessary. I guess from the fact that I'm a Kohen, I have a mitzvah to bless the people. That mitzvah has to exist. So if you have everything, what are you blessing for? Good health. Everybody has good health. We're living forever. So what's the blessing? Livelihood. There's like what's the good question? I don't think I gave her a good answer, but I'm just using that. A blessing means something. So, but here's the point where he wants to say is that in addition to the concept that is hidden in the word baruch, and then when I go in ahead, and I remember we learned earlier, when I take the word blessing and I actually put it together with baruch sha'amar v'haya olam, blessed is the one who spoke and the world was created. Now I'm already dealing, which is a very important opening verse of our prayers, of a certain section of the prayers. That is a vast cosmic idea that we can study and learn and speak about the awesomeness of that statement. Like we learned earlier, that is the Amir of Adam Kadmon. That's the words of primordial man that incorporate all of existence, all in a unified manner. I mean, this goes endlessly to understand and to speak about what this means. So it's a very, very rich concept in it. The idea is a very, very, very rich concept. And then again, if you disassemble the letters, you lose it. Fine. But now there's something else over here. There is a mysterious power of the soul that is much higher than the intellect or the intellectual idea that is present in that phrase, in that sentence. And that is the power to combine letters. There is an incredible, cool power in the soul that does wonders and that magically operates with enormous speed to grab letters of the ABC, or in our case in Hebrew, the Aleph Beis, and to form without hesitation combinations and combinations and combinations of letters to create the vessels. Imagine like you having a servant next to you who's every moment he's putting all kinds of different combinations in front of you so you can pour something inside of it. And it's like, and you're making the most incredible artwork. And he's putting everything, but like an enormous speed, like a machine, like that's what's going on. The brain is dropping letters so quickly. So how are the letters formulated? You say, okay, well, that's the idea. Who's grabbing the letters? When do you need letters? When you have some content. So you'd say that the content, the idea of blessing is grabbing a Beis Resh. It's when the blessing wants to, when the concept of the meaning of the word Baruch, blessing, is wants to descend into your consciousness. It runs like, in the bowling alley. When you go bowling, you have to first go get yourself a pair of shoes, so you can get bowling shoes before you can start bowling. So the concept has to run, grab a couple of letters, says to the clerk, give me a Beis, give me a Resh, give me a Vav, and give me a Chaf. Quickly. You grab the Beis, Resh, Vav, Chaf, and then the concept of blessing hops onto these letters and it descends. So you'll say it's the concept that goes to the counter that's got all this, the store that's got all these letters sitting there. It's basically only 22 letters. Grabbing the letters, setting them up in the right order, because if you set it up in the wrong order, you don't have the letters that you need now. And that's how every concept emerges with letters. But he's going to say, and this is really, really amazing, that why did you choose this combination? If it was the mind that was the same producer of the concept, that's also producing the word that's coming along, the letters that are the packaging, so to speak. If that's all produced by the concept itself, by the mind itself, how come you can formulate the same idea with different words? And that's what we're always doing. We're always saying, in other words. How many times do I say that in a class? In other words. So suddenly you flip around all the words. You're saying the same idea, but you're putting them in different words. So how is that? Or a lot of times you find, he says that the same rabbis have the same chidush, they have the same idea, the same explanation in the Talmud, and each one you're reading different words. Rashi says it one way, and a different rabbi says the same concept in different words. And you think about it and analyze, you see they're saying literally the same thing, but completely different words. So why is he using these words and why is he using these words? And this is what he says over here, is that there is a specific power in the soul that's really in our superconscious. We're not busy thinking, thank God we don't have to, because it would exhaust us. If we would have to sit there and consciously choose the letters every time we want to say something, we would be operating very, very slow. We do have that experience when you want to write a very, very short and important email or a text, and you're sitting there and you reanalyze and you reanalyze this word or that word, and it's a real pain, and it really slows us down. But and to a certain degree, we should do that when we speak, because we should choose the right words, but most of it gets done subconsciously. It happens. And what's that power? It's a power that's above the intelligence. It's the administrator of combining letters. And where is that administration office? It's above the intellect. It's actually rooted in the highest power of the soul, in Chachma. But over here, Chachma, and later he's going to even say, in Atzmos HaNefesh, in the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul, the essence of a person's soul is called medaber. A person is a speaker, because this ability to combine letters and words is a superpower of the soul. And this dwells, and every time, now when is it present? If you're quiet, you're not talking, or you're not thinking words kind of in that way, then this power is not being present, meaning it's dormant, it's inactive, it's unexpressed. But when you're doing what I'm doing right now, teaching and sharing words, this power of my neshama right now is being very active. And it's interesting, I guess you get to know really, really a person's essence from the choice of words they're using, because this is not reason and logic. This has to do with the person's very, very self. They're very pure. The purity of their soul, the core of their being. And for that reason, Rashi and the Ran, this is what he says earlier, the Rashi and the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, will say the same concept. And Rashi says it in one word, and the Ramban. So the intellect, the idea is the same idea. But Rashi's soul and the Ran's Rabbeinu Nissan's souls are completely different, two different souls. And Rashi is not in the choice of words that Rashi is using. Rashi is conveying who Rashi is. And the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissan, besides the concept, they're conveying who they are in the words they're choosing. Obviously, I'm not going to do, and you're not going to do, and I'm not going to do a soul analysis of Rashi because it's not something that me and you have the capacity to figure out. But the choice of words that a person uses, the combinations of letters, to formulate the very ideas that they're saying is coming from a very, very deep power in the soul. Now, if you take this concept and you apply it to the supernal realms above, this power to unify the letters is the koach ha'ein sof that's higher than the combination of the 10 hidden spheros. There's the 10 hidden spheros themselves, which is like an idea. It's a concept. It's an idea. It's a seichel. It's an intelligence. It's the idea of 10 spheros. But then the power to produce to unify these 10 aspects and formulate one idea. It's like to create these osios, these vessels, these kalim, these sphirot in the Or Ein Sof is from a koach of atzmos itself much higher. But it only is dwelling there as long as the letters are unified, as long as the spheros are unified. The moment you pluck the chachma and you pluck the bina out from its unified state, and each one is now becoming just a pure letter, so the koach hametzaref, the power of combining, isn't there anymore because you've uncombined. So you lose the presence of that power of soul, which in this case means you're losing touch with the Or Ein Sof itself. That's the idea that he's going to develop over here in chapter 26. I want to start it at least. I just explained it. He's going to build it up from Sefer Beinanim. Let's see. Cheli Beis Perek Yud Beis. This is what he says over there. He says over there that every letter, every letter that God used to create the world, every letter of the 10 utterances that Hashem used in creation. So every letter is indicative of drawing God's energy. A specific power. Because Hashem's letters are the building blocks of creation, and they are the pipelines of divine energy through which all of existence is produced. And therefore, he says, each letter is indicating a particular flavor, so to speak, a particular form of energy. And when many letters combine together, for it to become a word, so the Alter Rebbe says, in addition for there being many different types that you've combined one letter, let's say you've combined the bays, let's take an object, let's say you take an aleph, and then you combine and a yud, and then you take a lamed, and you take a nun. Together you get the word ilan. Ilan is a tree. So this unique combination of aleph, yud, lamed, nun, in addition to having 4 different energies blended together, because the aleph is now combining with the yud, the aleph could have combined with a different letter, with the resh. But now you made the concoction of an aleph, a yud, a lamed, and a nun. And precisely in this order. If you rearranged it in a different order, it would be a different thing. But you combine, first of all, for now, it wouldn't make a difference because now you're just taking the 4 energies. But the truth is it does make a difference because usually the earlier a letter is in the word, the more dominant that letter gets weaker. That means that there's less. It's like if when they show you on a wine, it's 50% cab and 30% merlot or whatever. It's going down a less percentage. So the first letter has the most power, and that's why we know a lot of times there's special codes that are hidden in Rashi Tevos, the first letters, because the first letter is the most potent letter of a word. Fine. So that's number one. But then the Alter Rebbe says, when you have a certain letters enough to combine a word, so in addition to the sum total of the 4 letters, of the energies that are now contained in these 4 letters, you're also blessed with the meaning of the word. And that meaning of the word is an extra energy that's hanging, that's now in the word. This is the way you understand what Tanya says superficially. But the Rebbe Rashab is now going to learn much deeper into the words of the Alter Rebbe. And he's going to say, no, the Alter Rebbe is saying something even more than just the soul of the word that's now dwelling in the word when you have an entire word. But there's also another mysterious power over here. And that's the power that's locking the Aleph, the Yud, the Lamed, and the Nun together and forming them into a unit to be the word. When you could have used another word for a tree, for instance, you could have used the word eitz. I'm sure there are differences of eitz and ilan, but for our discussion now, let's take them both loosely, where there would be no difference. You can use the word ilan, you can use the word eitz. And why did you choose the word ilan? That's because of a mysterious unknown power of the superconscious, of the highest level. In the human, it's the power of the soul itself that's choosing its words. And by God, it's a very, very deep power that's combining the letters. That's what he's proving over here. Let's take a look. So he says, the Alter Rebbe says, in addition to the many powers, there's something higher that's right, that is now above it all. Drawing forth of a very lofty power, and a very general power, that is all incorporating, and it weighs keneged kol minei hakochos. This combined energy, this higher power that's now dwelling, is equal and even more significant than the weight, so to speak. If you would weigh each letter in terms of its quality and get, this has so much weight of gold and this has so much ounces, you'll do each one. The combined energy that's now there is more than the sum total of all of them together. It's an added quality. Individual energies, and it rises above them and it's bigger than them. Now, you would think, okay, that's the word. He says, no. And this is what attaches them, and combines them together. Now, superficially, you can learn, it's the concept that's here that is now unifying these letters, because the concept was itching to get out, and that's what grabbed the Aleph, the Yud, the Lamed, and the Nun to have the word Ilan, and it can now, the concept can present itself. But he's going to explain, no, he's not just talking about the concept, because the concept could have used a different word. He's talking about the reason you precisely chose these letters to convey these words is a unique koach hatziruf. It's a unique power that combines letters together. I'm skipping a little bit because I'm going to go back to this. I just want to get this point out because I want to finish this point, and then tomorrow I'm skipping 3-4 lines. And this that he says that what rises above them all, is a drawing forth of a higher power, and a very general power, that attaches, and unifies, all the letters. Nira, it appears, we're not just talking about the concept that has enough wheels that it can ride upon. It has 4 wheels now that it can ride because it has 4 letters over here that it can use as a coach for the concept to come riding into town. It is something from above it, from a higher. Shaharei kol or seichel shemeslabish ba'oisiyos, because every intelligent idea of intelligence that encloses itself in letters, harei einoi muchrach she'iyeh ba'oisiyos elo. It's not a must that it should be in these letters, dafka. It can be in different letters. Ukamoi adon olam, like the concept, the master of the world. We say it in the beginning of our prayers, one of the beautiful piyutim, Adon Olam Hashem Malach, which means the master of the world. You can say Adon Olam, master of the world, with different words. Shuinyan Ashlita v'Memshala, which means dominion and rulership. Hareya Inyan Azed, this very idea, Yachalav Egam B'Yosis Acherim, you could say it in other words. Kamay Melech HaOlam, you can call it, say the king of the world. Why'd you choose the master of the world? It's not just the idea that's pushing these letters. Like we see two wise men. They say one idea. The Tosfos doesn't bring Rashi here because the Tosfos, the Rosh and the Ran. They say the same idea. Each one uses different words. If it would all be the concepts, the exact same idea. You see, it's not clear. It should be in these letters. It's a power that combines letters, that combines and attaches the letters, and it clothes inside of them the intelligence. This is even a higher power than the essence of the idea that's enclosed in the letters. We'll Be'ezus Hashem continue this exploration tomorrow.